Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Re lebishe mantswe a tlhobosho bao ba tlogetšweng ke ba ratang kudu-kudu batho ba mo Cape Town. Re kwele gore beke ye fela go na le batho ba more than 40 ba ba bolailweng mo Cape Town. So re ro bona ba robale ka khutšo le ba malapa a bona ba gomotšege. Re ska gomotša fela ba ba tsebegang ba tšwang di-televisioneng. Honorable Speaker, the EFF caucus led by the Secretary General Godrich Gatti, Speaker, under the leadership of the President Cyril Ramaphosa, the center is not holding. Things fall apart and South Africa is being auctioned off to a very dangerous minority that has privileged intelligence in its services of its interests. Mr. President, since your rise to power, the country's political direction is heading into a different destinations. The evidence is seen in key state institutions that are not showing any improvement at all, and there is no evidence whatsoever that they will improve in the near future. The crisis in ESCOM is getting worse, despite a board and management that you've chosen to stabilize this institution. This creates the greatest economic uncertainty because energy is central to modern industrial development. Trying to resolve ESCOM crisis by splitting the company will only lead to the benefit of Goldman Sachs, Investec, and Rothschilds, meaning you'll be creating a situation in which the country depends on these families for its energy needs. Once South Africa depends on Investec and the Rothschilds to put on the lights, it is the end of the historic and revolutionary objective to liberate our economy from white monopoly capital. There is a crisis in Transnet, and again, this is despite the board that was appointed by you, and worse, in Transnet, African leadership has been marginalized, but still there is no sign of improvement. There is a crisis in SAA, again, this despite the board and management appointed by yourself. There is a crisis in Denel, which is struggling to pay salaries, and the board and management of Denel were also appointed by your good self. But the most dangerous development under your watch, Mr. President, is the direction in which you are taking the Public Investment Corporation. As you know, the PIC is one of the most important institutions in the economy of South Africa with over 2 trillion assets under management. With the current board appointed by your Minister of Finance, my homeboy, with due respect, you have effectively donated the PIC to a capitalist faction led by Trevor Manuel and his wife, Maria Ramos, who was involved in fixing of the South African currency. She has confessed to that. Maria Ramos and Trevor Manuel are the most trusted ground forces of the white capitalist establishment, and they unashamedly do everything in their power to please the Ruperts and Rothschilds. Why is the Deputy Minister of Finance not appointed to be the chairperson of the PIC board, despite the fact that he holds a PhD, making him more qualified than all those capitalist stooges you appointed in the PIC board? I never thought you've got a problem with young people of talent. I don't understand why do you isolate Masondo. You remind me of the days when Mbeki isolated Peter Mokaba. And Peter died asking the question and asking for a meeting between President Mbeki and President Mandela, wanting an explanation of what he did. Till to his grave, Peter was never given an explanation as to what he did wrong to the movement. I see the similarity in wanting to destroy Masondo. You appointed the former Deputy Minister of Finance, the most intellectually challenged man, to lead the PIC. And then when a man of intelligence and a man who's got all the qualities to lead that institution comes, you isolate him.
Honorable Malena,
Yet you...
please take your seat. I've got a point of order.
No, thank you, Chairperson. I'm rising On Rule 84,
Rule 84.
yes.
Please continue.
Yeah, in particular in the reference to the former minister, deputy minister as intellectually challenged. I think it's unparliamentary. Thank you.
Honorable Malema?
Speaker.
No, I'm ruling, Honorable. Honorable Malema, the words intellectually challengeable, if you take them as they are spoken, are not unparliamentary, but in the sense you are using it, you are using them to reflect on a member. I do not think that that is correct, and I wish to ask you not to repeat that.
Thank you.
I have ruled. Please do not repeat the words.
We want to ask you, Mr. President, to reconsider the decision to exclude the Deputy Minister from the PIC board. Because if you continue to exclude these young people who are here to give us leadership, we will continue to fail these institutions. Masondo is not the type which can be a pushover. And we all know that the reason he's excluded is because he's not easily manipulated. Not Maria Ramos, not Trevor Manuel, not Honorable Jamnandas can push Masondo around. And that's why he's now being isolated. President, you are not in charge of this country, and a group of minorities are running this country on your behalf for the benefit of Stellenbosch Mafia, the Rothschild, and the George Soros. We can say it here under the protection of parliamentary privileges that the newly appointed SARS commissioner is a friend of Trevor Manuel, and that's why Trevor Manuel recused himself when the interview of this commissioner, which was held in secret, occurred. You were supposed to independently appoint a SARS commissioner, and you chose to outsource your powers to Trevor Manuel, who is the chairperson of the Rothschild Foundation in South Africa. When given an opportunity to appoint the National Director of Public Prosecution, you outsourced the function and appointed an NDPP who is saying the NPA must accept private donation from private individuals and companies. What is South Africa going to be if the prosecuting authority is funded by private capitalists who in South Africa are exclusively white and often engaged in many crimes of tax avoidance, massive fraud, and illicit financial flows? How is the NPA going to independently investigate and prosecute the people and companies that will be funding it? We as the EFF reject any suggestion that the NPA should accept private donation, worse, from private international donors, and will go to prevent that. The direct capture of such an institution for counter-revolutionary ends must be prevented by any means necessary. For all we know, the first international donor who will jump into opportunity to fund the NPA is the USA billionaire George Soros through his Open Society Foundation. Countries like Hungary and Turkey have banned Soros for pursuing regime change agendas because he does not respect the self-determination of other people of the world, just like he actively funded regime change in Zimbabwe. Mr. President, the public protector has confirmed what we all know, that there is an unlawful, illegal, extremely dangerous intelligence unit that was established by Mr. Pravin Gordhan in his previous job as SARS commissioner. Some of the people who worked for this unit are coming out into the public to speak of its illegal activities. Mr. President, the rogue unit exists, and its equipment and capacity are now being used by companies owned by Ivan Pillay and Johan van Lochenberg. The rogue unit is a political, and its political principles are primarily at the helm of a media cabal and a faction whose role is to lynch anyone who expresses or speaks against the formation of the unit and its illegal activities. I became a victim of this unit. I went to them in 2010. I met Opa Mahashule. I met Ivan Pillay. I met Johan van Lochenberg. I gave them the document which contained all of this information. After I left, all my problems started. What type of a president are you who, even when presented with a hardcore evidence of the most dangerous activities of Honorable Jamnandas, you still don't act? The reality is the rogue unit was not established with a directive of any sitting president and did not report to him. This means whoever they reported to was as powerful, if not more than a sitting president. Also, why should such a unit collect information privately and in an illegal manner from the NPA? What are the implications of this? Which high-profile individuals did this unit monitor and why? It is highly possible that these high-profile individuals also included a sitting president. In essence, once intelligence unit is established outside the prescription of legislation, it means its activities were not subjected to oversight and accountability by the Parliament Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence. How do we hold them accountable? Mr. President, we are too young, but we have learned a lot from many of you. Many of you are still traumatized by the activities of the cabal. And that's how Honorable Jamnandas become untouchable. He needs to know that unlike you who are traumatized by him, we are not scared of him. We are going to take him head on, toe to toe. And there's none of you who can tell us how we must take on Jamnandas. Jamnandas' faction destroyed a lot of comrades, traumatized a lot of comrades, they smeared a lot of comrades, the same way they are doing now. When you disagree with them, they go to the papers. Let me tell you who's their next victim. It's Minister Sisulu, because they are projecting her as a person who's competing the president. The next, they will character assassinate her, because anyone that Honorable Jamnandas does not want, he engages in illegal activities to destroy their image. And it's not us. There was a report compiled about the cabal, and Jamnandas' name was there, doing exactly what they are doing now, to destroy and character assassinate those they disagree with. We are not going to be held at ransom here by Praveen. You are scared of him. We are not scared of him. Whoa, the same way you are scared of Zuma,
Honorable
we took him on, we
Honorable
dropped him.
Malema.
Today he's sitting in the
Honorable
commission there,
Malema.
like a lost soul.
Honorable
We will do
Malema.
the same with Jamnandas.
Honorable Malema, in this house, he is Honorable Pravin.
Honorable Jamnandas.
He is Honorable Pravin.
Honorable Jamnandas is his name, Chair.
His surname is Pravin.
His surname is Godan, not
Oh,
Praveen.
my apologies, is Honorable Godan.
Mr. Godan. Mr. President, like Zuma, you will begin to hate this parliament. Do everything in your power to stay away from it, simply because you want to protect an individual against a Chapter 9 institution. President, this parliament must finalize the amendment of the Constitution to allow expropriation of land without compensation. We should pass legislation to nationalize the Reserve Bank. We should create a state-owned bank. We should create free, quality, decolonized education. We must insource all the workers who are working in the government institutions, particularly the workers, the security guards, the cleaners. President, let's make it very clear. We find it difficult now to support this budget. I wanted to be the first person to support a budget of a president, because I've got respect for you and I've committed that we will support you. But these tendencies that are coming from your side in defiance of Chapter 9 institution, in protection of corrupt individuals, in isolating young people with talent, it means you are canvassing the same grounds that Zuma canvassed before. We did not fight with Zuma because he was ugly. No. We fought with Zuma because, firstly, he outsourced his powers in the ANC to a family. And secondly, he undermined institutions of the state, you are doing the same. And I can guarantee you now, they can have all types of press conferences, they can release all types of statements condemning the EFF. We are not here by your invitation. We are here because of our hard work. Even when you said to us, the way you are going on, you will not come back here. We came back more stronger and powerful. And we are going to use this parliament to put pressure on you and on your friends who are coming from the cabal to respect the Chapter 9 institutions. I don't care who occupies that office. That office must be respected. If Honorable Pravin respected you and respected the new dawn, he will do what the Deputy President did and say, let me step aside until my name is cleared. As peers, as people who are honest to each other, give him that advice in your caucuses and in your meetings. There is nothing wrong. Go out, go clear your name. You are appointable anytime. You can appoint him anytime as long as he has cleared his name. But because he's not honorable and has got disrespect for you, not because of the things we know, maybe you know things maybe he knows things that we don't know. That's why he has become so untouchable. You even join in interdicting the remedial actions of a public protector in protection of an individual against Chapter 9 institution. When this parliament degenerates, when the situation degenerates in this country, you will have yourself to blame. We want President Zuma repeatedly. I wanted to enjoy this parliament. I wanted to enjoy your presidency. You've got the best chance ever to lead us out of a nightmare of disrespecting institutions of the state. When you get such an opportunity, you mess it up by protecting an individual. And this individual has got no respect for blacks, in particular Africans. Every little African talent we have known of, he has single-handedly destroyed. Our comrades are projected as criminals. The people who are in the trenches, the people who fought for this country, who are well qualified, destroyed by an untouchable man who did the same thing to Winnie Mandela.
Honorable
I will
Malema.
never succumb to
Honorable
Pravin's
Malema.
pressure.
His time
You
is
might have
up.
done it to Winnie, you might have done it to Pius
Honorable
Langa.
Malema,
You will
your
never
time has
succeed with our
expired.
generation. Press go out.
Honorable Malema, Honorable Pando. You have the floor, ma'am.
Speaker, I would like consideration of the Hansard and the various aspersions that have been cast on Honorable Gordon without a substantive motion being brought to the House. And you, Speaker, in the chair, allowed it consistently, and I would ask for your ruling on this matter. Thank you.
I will do so, ma'am.
Speaker, please consider that when you make that consideration...
Honorable Ndlozi.
Sorry, Speaker, may I please be recognized?
You are recognized. Go
Thank
ahead.
you. Thank you very much, Speaker. Respectfully, when you make the consideration that Honorable Naledi Pando is talking about, consider that there is a public protector's report, which is not casting aspersions. It is public, it is part of our debates, and do not, Honorable Speaker, be invited to stifle debate in this House. Everybody must be held accountable. So that is my respectful submission when you look at that answer that you are being invited to look at.
Honorable Ndlozi, thank you very much. Honorable members, we're not discussing the Public Protector's report. We are discussing vote 1. Honorable Pando is raising a matter that she says I must look at. Whether aspersions have been cast against a member without substantiating. And I have undertaken to do that. In doing so, I shall not be influenced by anything but Hansard and what the member has said on the podium. Thank you. The Honorable, the Deputy President.
Honorable Speaker and Deputy Speaker, His Excellency the President of the Republic of South Africa, Mr. Matamela Ramaphosa, Honorable Ministers and Deputy Ministers, Honorable Members of the National Assembly, on the eve of remembering what will have been former President Nelson Mandela's 101st birthday, we pause and take a moment to reflect on the legacy of his humanity and servant leadership. His entire life embodied a selfless commitment to the core values of freedom, dignity, human solidarity, and a relentless pursuit of struggles to change the lives of ordinary people for the better. As this House engages with its day-to-day work, we must not go astray, but instead seek to galvanize our collective leadership resolve and energies to tackle the challenges that are before us: unemployment, poverty, and inequality. Tata Madiba's life reminds us that we have a responsibility to free our people from the bondage and indignity of poverty. He said, I open quote, "Like slavery and apartheid, poverty is not natural. It is man-made. It can be overcome and eradicated by actions of human beings. And overcoming poverty is not a gesture of charity. It is an act of justice. It is the protection of a fundamental human right, the right to dignity and decent life. While poverty persists, there is no true freedom," close quote. Rising poverty and inequality continues to pose serious risk to global peace and stability. The United Nations 2019 Global Multi-Dimensional Poverty Index shows that 1.3 billion are multidimensionally poor. The report notes that Sub-Saharan and South Asia account for the largest proportion of poor people. As a country, we are confronted with high levels of poverty that require our coordinated and decisive interventions. What this suggests is that there should be a concerted and coordinated effort to address not only income poverty, but other critical challenges and dimensions of poverty that include, among others, our health outcomes, our education and skills, asset poverty, poor quality of work, crime, gender-based violence, as well as poor access to basic services. Poverty, inequality, and deprivation engender deep-seated social fractures that undermine the goals of building a united and a cohesive society. Honorable Speaker, we've come a long way since the birth of our democracy. This nation rose from the ashes of prejudice and racial polarization to forge a new national identity founded on equality, equitable access to opportunities for all,
and the respect of human rights. We must continue to build a united nation that pursues common goals and aspirations for the benefit of all citizens. As we move forward, we must condemn those that promote race-based narratives intended to pull this nation apart. Incidents of racism and hate speech fueled through social media platforms must be discouraged. More importantly, our spatial planning and approach to integrated sustainable human settlement must foster racial integration and create a decent and safe environment for our people to live in. Women and children must walk freely with no fear of being raped, caught in the crossfire of gang violence. We must reject xenophobic attacks perpetrated against foreign nationals. Our communities must unite and collaborate with law enforcement agencies to put an end to gender-based violence and murder of our young girls. The Summit on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide that was led by our president last year revealed that gender-based violence had reached unprecedented levels in recent times, and that more and more women are dying at the hands of their intimate partners. This cannot be allowed to continue. As the presidency will work in close partnership with all our social partners to implement the declaration and resolutions which were the outcome of that summit. Our task of strengthening social cohesion